Wow, 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 wow. This is really wonderful. Here we go. All right, here we go. So what are we saying? What do we say? This is Pinchas. So let me just make a short resume of what we learned. Pinchas, he fulfilled what we just finished learning about in the Mimer, self-sacrifice. Pinchas did not care about himself. He didn't care about his future, his past, anything. He didn't care about his chances of succeeding. He knew that he had to put an end to this terrible act that was going on. And he knew that that was the law. And he even asked Moses if that was right. And Moses said, it's right, but you have to do it. And so he did. He did this act. He killed Zimri, it says. Self-sacrifice. Because of that, he became a Kohen. Good, that's the story. Says the Rebbe, after that, in this week's Torah portion, the whole Torah portion is called Pinchas. After that, we see the story of dividing up the land of Israel, apportioning the land of Israel. What's the connection between the two of them? Pinchas with the self-sacrifice and apportioning the land of Israel. So says the Rebbe, the Torah is eternal. That what it talks about here, apportioning, dividing up the land of Israel, preparing to go into the land of Israel, is hinting at the future redemption. Because one of the main features of the future redemption by means of the Mashiach is going to be, like we learned in the Mimer, Mashiach is going to arouse in every Jew his true Jewish awareness. When that happens, then Mashiach will build the third temple. It says the third temple will come from heaven. That's what it says in the Zohar and the Gemara. There's the Tosfos and Sukkot. The holy temple will come from heaven. And when that happens, then all the Jews will have such a desire to do all the commandments that they'll all come to the land of Israel. That's going to be the final redemption. So we see that the final redemption depends on the attitude of the Jews. Every Jew has to have a different attitude than we have now. What type of attitude are they supposed to have? The attitude that Pinchas had. The attitude that we learned in the morning Mimer, that Mordechai brought the Jews to. We didn't get to explain that yet, but this attitude of self-sacrifice. Instead of doing Judaism for self-aggrandizement, for self-purification, for self-realization, for self-expression, and for they say there's all these, self, what is it? Self-activation. For myself, I'm going to go to heaven. Instead of that, the whole thing of Judaism is, all these things are wonderful, build yourself up, increase yourself, but the main thing of Judaism is self-sacrifice, to give yourself away. For the truth, of course. And that's what Pinchas did. That's revealing this level of Yechida. Yechida. Says the Rebbe, the whole time the Jews are not aware of exile, they can do Torah mitzvahs, like for instance, when they were in the temple, the time of the first temple, the second temple, they could do Torah and mitzvahs with their soul. They could be spiritual, according to Kabbalah, according to Masha Einkin. That's where we are now. Masha Einkin, which is not the case, Be'ikva de Mashiach, then now we are at the heels of the Messiah. And again, we have to say, Mashiach is going to be a person like Moshe. He's going to change the priorities of all the Jewish people. But the main thing is he's going to change the hearts of the Jewish people, that they're going to have a heart, love and fear and faith for the Creator. Nowadays, we're in the heels of the Mashiach. Vetes fadert zich, it is required, mesirut nefesh, self-sacrifice. Via hakdama, as a preparation, as the key to the Giluyim Dalatid, from the revelations that are going to be in the future. That's the key. And God gives us a little bit of revelations, but it has to have self-sacrifice. I really don't like repeating this, but I do repeat it, and I'm going to repeat it a lot. Just about 4 years ago, the Arabs shot 4,500 missiles at the Israelis, 4,500. And the Iron Dome missiles, they stopped like 700, 800 of them, which means there's another 3,700 missiles that are unaccounted for. So let's say 3,000 of them landed in the sea or in the desert, which is not so. But there's 700 missiles that are unaccounted for. Each one of these missiles was like as strong as, 20, 30 hand grenades. Who stopped them? Who stopped them? So the Israeli press and the Israeli this and the Israeli academics and the Israeli politics, they refused to say that it was God. They totally refused to say it's God because it would mean that you have to give something over to God, at least give credit. They don't want to give anything. That's what's called Mesirut Nefesh. Mesirut means to give over your soul, your desires, your will, your priorities. Give them over to the Creator. At least give God a little credit. That's the preparation. That's truly going out of exile. Truly going out of exile. When you start to give God credit, you start to realize, hey, maybe, I owe God something. Maybe I owe God something. And it's a long story that I tell, but the end of the story is that there was somebody that I put tefillin on people in the street. This happened to be in the army. And somebody said, why should I put on tefillin? He was cursing me out and yelling at me. Why should I put on tefillin? In the end, I said to him, listen, God gives us everything. Even if we do all the sins in the world, God still gives us life and this. And there's no punishments nowadays. People don't go to hell. You don't have to worry. Everything you get for free. Everything for free. So I said, but if God gives you everything for free, why not do something for him for free? Right? Whether you put on tefillin or you don't put on tefillin, God will love you, God will bless you, God will... Not that you're in the army, you're protecting the Jewish people, you're risking your life, for me. That's enough. But so if God will protect you for free and he'll give you everything, so do something for him for free. Put on tefillin, that's what he wants. He said, okay, and he put on tefillin. Put on tefillin. Says that's what happens to be in the future. It's called Mesirut Nefesh, that you give your soul over to God for absolutely no reason except that it's the truth. The Gilui Etzem Ohr, this is what's called revelation of the essence of the light of God. Like it says, Lo Yikanef Od. In the future redemption, it says that people won't have to be explained the Torah. You won't have to be explained the secrets of the Torah. Everyone will see and feel. Every word of the Torah will be alive, meaningful. Every commandment, you'll feel the miracle in it. As Muzayin, the avoda from Mesirut Nefesh. But in order to come to this, a person has to have the attitude of Mesirut Nefesh, self-sacrifice. Begilui, in a revealed way. The poil does kommt from there, Gilui from Yechida. This comes from the level of Yechida without any garments. I know I'm telling a lot of stories, but I want to tell the story anyway. And I think I've said it before, but I'll say it again. I used to live in Bnei Brak. When I just got married, we lived in Bnei Brak for 4 years. And so I used to go around to the synagogues right before Shabbat, and I would hand out the Sichot of the Rebbe. It was like a pamphlet, a little pamphlet, right? And it was a Sicha of the Rebbe that week. And I would give it out to the different synagogues. There was about 20 of them. And I didn't have a bicycle. I had to run from one to another. But I was energetic, So I ran from one to the other. But what happened was if I went a little bit too early, let's say an hour before Shabbos, so there were a lot of people in Bnei Brak that didn't like Chabad. They didn't like Chabad. It's a very painful period in Judaism, but nevertheless, they didn't like Chabad, and they would throw all these sichot away. How do I know? Because sometimes I would go back to these places and I would see them in the garbage, or they wouldn't be there at all, or the garbage outside, not inside. The people would pick it up. Or they wouldn't be there, someone would come and they would run. And once I even encountered the person who was running after me, that would go after me, that he would take these sichot, these things of the Rebbe. So in order that I should be able to to give them out, to distribute them, and they wouldn't be thrown away, I had to go as late as possible, right before Shabbat. And these people that were throwing them away, they weren't willing to sacrifice, so much, to come home late or something like that. It was convenient, they threw them away. So as a result, they wouldn't throw them away. But what it meant was, like 15 minutes before Shabbat, I had to run like a maniac from one synagogue to the other, and some of them were distances, and I would come home sweating and tired and everything, but it would work. And there was one synagogue at the end, and there was this sort of simple guy that was sitting there all the time, and he would look at me coming in, I was all sweating, and he would say, Chabad, Mesirut Nefesh, Chabad, Mesirut Nefesh, Chabad. It wasn't Chabad, it was an older Jew, Chabad, Mesirut Nefesh. I mean, I wasn't aware I was doing anything special, I was just doing what said. He would say, Chabad, Mesirut. And he doesn't care anything about himself. He's just doing what he has to do. It's Mesirut Nefesh, to be self-sacrificing. That's the essence of Judaism that will bring the future redemption and all of the Jews back to Israel. Oich in Mesirut Nefesh b'pol gufa zayin faran dargos. Also in this self-sacrifice, actual self-sacrifice, there's different levels. Se'iz farana metziut. There is sometimes when there's self-sacrifice, there can be sometimes a manifestation. When is sich taka moser nefesh, when a person really is self-sacrificing, sacrificing himself. Aval the mesiras nefesh gufa is bayim mit the medida v'hagbala. It's limited. Yedemo, that one time, when the situation calls for it, I'll do it. Then in kumtsum hand, when it happens to come to him, the opportunity on Inyan from Torah and mitzvahs, was is verbunden, which is connected. This is great. Mesiras nefesh is kukter arayin in Shulchan Aruch. He looks in the Shulchan Aruch. And according to the Shulchan Aruch, one must sacrifice yourself for this. Then he does. Is there zich dan moser nefesh? They're emissary Inyan, but that's not true self-sacrifice. The true thing of self-sacrifice is, aber zu sein übergegeben zu dem Eberster, to be totally devoted to God, an kein hagbalas, without any limitations. That's the question. Am I really given over to God? Do I want anything from this? Sometimes people, I'll give you two examples. One example from Reb Mendel Futterfest, a good example, and an example is not so good, from a school in what was it? In Ramleh. The example from Rabbi Mendel Futterfest, self-sacrifice. The second one is sort of funny, but the first one, self-sacrifice. Rabbi Mendel Futterfest, very famous, very well-known in Chabad. He was a very, very self-sacrificing person. He risked everything, all of his money, all of his health, everything he had, his life, many, many times, for things that the previous Rebbe wanted. To be a religious Jew in Russia under the previous Rebbe required self-sacrifice all the time. And there were some Jews that were more self-sacrificing and others that were less self-sacrificing. I mean, anyway. So he had helped collect money to help the Rebbe with these underground schools that they made, Machteret, these underground schools, and to get Jews out of Russia, forging passports, and et cetera, et cetera. And finally, one day he heard that the KGB or whatever it was, or the GPO, the secret police, the Russian secret police, they weren't such a secret, like 1/3 of the people that were spies over there in Russia, that they were after him. So he had himself a forged passport, and he and his wife and his children, they were on the way to the train. He had forged passports for all of them. And there was a special way on the train. You could go to a place called Lemberg, and there was a whole thing. Anyway, so he met up with a friend of his called Yona Paltover. And Yona Paltover said, "Where are you going?" He said, "I'm leaving. I hear that the police are after me." So he said, "Oh, you're leaving Russia?" I mean, so he said, "Yes, I've been constantly living in self-sacrifice for the whole time I've been here. and now they want to catch me. I'm leaving. This Yonah Paltover said, "Oh, I didn't know that there was a limit to self-sacrifice. I didn't know there was a limit. Up to now, self-sacrifice." And Reb Mendel Foot, I mean, this is like amazing advice. It's like usually you give a person advice to something that's going to benefit him. This is the opposite. He knew he was going to get caught. And Reb Mendel Futafas said, yes, he gave his wife told his wife to get on the train. According to another version, that he got on the train, and at the last stop before they went over the border, he got off the train and went back. Because if he would leave, then who would take care of the underground schools, and who would collect money, and either going to get him. And sure enough, they arrested him, and 2 weeks later, and they put him into prison. They put him into then that's the whole story. He miraculously got out. So in other words, there is no limit to self-sacrifice. Self-sacrifice is something. Okay, now I'll tell you the second story. This story happened about 10 years ago. There was a